Ever catch yourself looking at someone and just thinking, wow, they're really attractive?
Happens all the time. Right?
Totally. But makes you wonder, like, is our whole idea of beauty a human thing?
It's kind of a funny thing to think about. Like, do animals experience that too?
Right. Well, get ready for a curveball because today's deep dive is all about chickens.
Yep, chickens. And you're not going to believe this. Their surprising ability to judge, wait for it, human attractiveness.
No way. I gotta admit, the study we're looking at today, Chickens Prefer Beautiful Humans, definitely caught my attention.
Catchy title.
Totally. So how do you even begin to research something like that?
All right, so picture this. Researchers created this whole spectrum of faces. Okay, on one end, they'd have like the average of a bunch of male faces, and on the other, the average female face.
Okay, got it.
But then they made things even more interesting. They digitally exaggerated those features. So you had this whole range from like average Joe to supermodel status.
So they basically had their lineup of faces. What did the chickens actually do?
All right, here's the thing. They trained these chickens, both male and female chickens, mind you, to peck at certain faces.
For a reward.
Exactly, like a tasty treat.
Ah, clever. It's like teaching a dog a trick, but with, faces.
Yeah.
But how does this tell us about what chickens actually find attractive?
So they train them on these average faces, right? And then they show them the whole spectrum, including those of the exaggerated features.
Yeah.
The chickens, get this, consistently went for the faces that humans had already rated as more attractive.
Wait, seriously, the chickens were picking up on the same features WE find appealing. That's nuts. But shouldn't our ideas of beauty be totally different? I mean, come on, we're talking about different species here.
Right. Totally different evolutionary path, mating strategies, the whole 9 yards. And that's why this throws a wrench in a major theory about attraction. The mate quality hypothesis.
Which is?
It basically says we're drawn to certain features because, evolutionarily they signal a good mate. Someone will pass on those strong genes. Survival of the fittest.
Makes sense. But chickens aren't exactly looking for a human partner.
Exactly. And that's why these findings are so fascinating. It's like maybe there's something else going on here, something beyond just, finding a mate. And that's where the bias hypothesis comes into play. So this bias hypothesis.
Right. What's that all about?
It basically suggests that maybe, just maybe, it's not all about picking a mate. It's about how our brains actually work, how they process stuff.
So, even though humans and chickens are, totally different in a million ways, there might be some shared wiring in our brains that influences what we think is attractive.
You got it. It's like our brains have this basic setup for processing all the visual information coming in. And this setup, it kind of influences what we see as, easy on the eyes, whether you're a human looking for a hot date or a chick pecking for a snack.
Whoa, that's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it. It's like those optical illusions where your brain sees two different things depending on how you look at it. Maybe beauty really is at least partly, all about how we perceive it.
I like that, the eye of the beholder. But it's more like the brain of the beholder, And it gets even more wild when you think about how we learn and put things in categories.
Go on.
Our brains are constantly making these mental shortcuts, right? Grouping similar things together based on what we've experienced. It's called generalization, and it's kind of a big deal in how we navigate, everything.
So these chickens, are they generalizing? They learn that a certain kind of face means a tasty treat, and then they just start liking other faces that share those features, even if they've never seen those exact faces before.
Bingo. This study is saying that both chickens and humans might be naturally inclined to like certain features. And it's not about cultural standards of beauty or who we want to mate with. There's something deeper going on in our brains.
This is getting really interesting. But, it was just one study with a limited number of faces, right?
Right.
We need more research to say for sure.
For sure. But this study opens up a ton of possibilities for future research. Imagine if they trained chickens to recognize individual faces instead of just those averages. Or if they used a way bigger variety of faces, like different ages, ethnicities, you name it.
Okay, yeah. That would tell us way more about what they're actually responding to. Are they into symmetry, skin texture? What about eye color?
Right. We could pinpoint the exact features driving these preferences. And if chickens consistently go for certain features, even with a ton of different faces, it would really back up this idea that our sense of beauty isn't just random, It's influenced by stuff happening in our brains that we share with other animals.
Makes you think, right? What other things do we think are, uniquely human, but maybe, just maybe, aren't.
Yeah, it's kind of humbling, this thing, this beauty thing, it might go way deeper than we thought. It's like a connection to, I don't know, all living things or something.
Totally. So we've talked about chickens and humans, but are there other animals that, like, back up this whole universal beauty thing?
Oh yeah, for sure. Ever heard of bowerbirds?
Vaguely, maybe. Remind me.
So these guys, they build these crazy elaborate structures,
Mm-hmm.
like little nests, but way more extra, and they use them to attract mates.
Okay, yeah. Now I remember. They're super picky about how they decorate them,
You
right?
got it. They're like the interior designers of the bird world. Flowers, berries, shiny stuff, you name it. And they arrange it all just so. And get this, researchers have figured out that they follow these certain patterns. Like they dig contrasting colors, and they arrange things in ways that mess with your eyes, create illusions and stuff.
Whoa, really? So even though their version of beauty is, building a sweet pad instead of, like, facial features, they still have these preferences for certain looks.
Exactly. And it's not just them. Think about peacocks and those, like, ridiculously awesome tails they've got.
So extra.
Right, but those big, colorful displays, total babe magnets in the peacock world. And studies show that peahens, they go for the peacocks with the most eye spots on their tails. Oh, and symmetry. Gotta have that symmetry.
So we've got symmetry, color contrasts. The more complex, the better. Those are some pretty consistent themes here, even if we're talking about species that experience the world in completely different ways.
It all points to the idea that maybe, just maybe, these visual patterns, they trigger something in the brain, something good. Maybe it's about how we process information. Or maybe it even ties into survival instincts. Who knows?
This whole thing really makes you question what beauty even means, It's not just some made-up human thing. It's, like, baked into nature itself.
Totally. It makes you wonder what other things we think are human, but are actually, like, way more ancient and primal than we realize.
Mind blown. Well, that about wraps up another deep dive. We've gone from chicken brains to bowerbird love nests, all in the name of understanding beauty.
And who knows what other weird and wonderful mysteries are out there just waiting to be discovered.
Exactly. So until next time, stay curious, everyone. And remember, there's a whole lot more to beauty than meets the...
Well, the A and D, the brain, apparently.